In the shadows of history, one name strikes fear into the hearts of millions: Adolf Hitler. The world remains haunted by his actions, and the question remains, why? Imagine a night where silence fell over Europe and chaos was brewing in the hearts of men. The air was thick with fear, and the streets of Vienna were cold and empty. A young boy walked alone, his eyes hollow, his future uncertain. That boy would one day be known as the man who spread terror across the world. The darkness behind his eyes held secrets few could comprehend. In the quiet towns, whispers of violence and control began to creep into daily life. People felt an unexplainable chill when his name was mentioned. The scent of smoke, dirt, and death lingered in the air of every city he entered. Vienna, with its narrow alleys and cold stone buildings, became a breeding ground for his ideas. The palace-like structures cast long shadows, reflecting the darkness inside him. He strolled through crowded markets, watching, listening, learning. The people around him were oblivious to the storm brewing in his soul. He watched children play, yet something inside him twisted. The smile of a child sometimes stirred rage in his heart. His life would become a testament to obsession, power, and hatred. He learned to mask his dark thoughts with charm and persistence. Europe's heart was vibrating with change, and he was ready to strike. The streets he walked held memories of failure, humiliation, and bitterness. His family life was fragmented, filled with harsh words and silent torment. A father who demanded perfection, a mother who longed for love, left him empty. He felt unseen, misunderstood, and angry at a world that seemed to ignore him. This emptiness grew, turning into a hunger for control and domination. He painted and drew, trying to find peace, but his soul was restless. Rejection from art schools deepened the wounds in his heart. Every failure became a seed of bitterness that would one day bloom into hatred. He wandered the city streets alone, observing the weakness he perceived in others. His mind began to invent enemies, seeing them where none existed. The world became canvas for his anger, waiting to be painted in blood. War had left Europe fragile, and his opportunity grew. The economy collapsed, and people longed for a leader who promised everything. He learned to speak, to move, to charismatically command attention. Crowds gathered, entranced by the power in his words. His speeches were more than words, they were weapons of control. He promised order, prosperity, and glory to a broken nation. But behind his promises lurked a plan of unimaginable horror. The people were hooked, blinded by desperation and hope. Every smile he gave masked a calculated plan to destroy lives. He was a master of manipulation, reading fears like open books. In his office, plans spread across tables like maps of a future conquest. Pieces of paper held names, cities, and strategies that would shock the world. He studied his enemies, learning their weaknesses and planning attacks. The silence of night became his ally, where he concocted nightmares. He slept little, dreaming of power and control, while others dreamed of peace. His eyes, dark and pierceful, seemed to see through souls. People who met him felt uneasy, as if an invisible force was watching them. He moved through Europe like a shadow, leaving fear behind. His ideas spread quickly, capturing hearts and minds alike. A nation in desperation became his playground. He found supporters who shared his vision or who were too weak to oppose him. Together they built a machine of hatred, fear, and control. Every step forward made the world darker, as if light was fading. In his eyes, the end justified the means, no matter the cost. He envisioned a Europe cleared of those he considered unworthy. The first laws targeted minorities, silently testing compliance.
Fear began to root, and people learned to obey or disappear. Secret police watched, listened, and ensured every move was monitored. He loved the power of fear, watching it contort faces and bend wills. With every decree, every speech, he pulled Europe closer to chaos. The first victims were often unknown, their lives erased without notice. Yet the world did not yet realize the true scope of his darkness. He refined his methods, learning to silence the weak and embolden the loyal. Propaganda spread like wildfire, shaping minds and justifying crimes. Children learned to hate, adults learned to fear, and the elderly learned to obey. Every aspect of life was controlled, from education to art to religion. He created a world where questions were dangerous and silence was golden. The streets filled with marching soldiers, their faces empty of doubt or mercy. The air itself seemed to tremble under the weight of his presence. Even the weather felt ominous, as if the sky was warned of the coming horror. He reached out to young men, promising glory, brotherhood, and purpose. They answered his call, becoming tools in a plan they did not fully understand. Training camps filled with shouts, drills, and the smell of blood and steel. Every man became a piece in his machine, stripped of questioning or morality. He promised them immortality in history, and many believed. The world slowed, watching as his army grew stronger, more disciplined, more deadly. He struck with precision, targeting nations who would resist his power. His tactics were cold, calculated, and often shockingly brutal. Yet the world still did not fully grasp the monster in human form. Every step he took was a step toward global catastrophe.
As Europe fell into chaos, investigators began to piece together the scope of his plans. Secret documents emerged, revealing strategies that chill the blood. Every order, every speech was carefully archived by his own hand. Yet many remained hidden, waiting to be discovered by future generations. Historians and detectives later found clues buried in the shadows of history. One such clue was a series of letters filled with hatred and obsession. They showed his thinking, his rationalizations, and his fears. The letters were dark, filled with anger toward those he perceived as enemies. They also revealed a man frighteningly calm when speaking of destruction. His words were like ice, freezing the soul of anyone who read them. Investigators discovered that he had a strange fascination with symbols and rituals. Each symbol was carefully chosen to intimidate and control the masses. He believed in his own destiny, thinking he was chosen to lead Europe. The more he believed, the darker his actions became. His obsession with bloodlines and pure heritage led to shocking decisions. He systematically targeted minorities, blaming them for every failure in society. His speeches turned from charismatic to dangerous, inciting hatred and violence. Cities became war zones of fear, with citizens caught between loyalty and survival. Secret police enforced his rule, leaving no room for resistance. Even friends and family lived in fear of crossing him. Evidence showed he strategically used propaganda to control thoughts and actions. Films, newspapers, and posters were designed to manipulate emotions. The public could hardly tell truth from lies, as he shaped reality itself. Investigators found recordings of speeches that sent shocks through the nation. The tone was calculated, making people feel urgency, fear, and belonging all at once. His talent for manipulation was both genius and monstrous. Many followers saw him as a savior, not a tyrant. The duality of his personality made him unpredictable and terrifying. Historians note that his charm was his deadliest weapon. Even those who opposed him were sometimes seduced by his logic and forceful presence. But the truth behind his actions was darker than anyone imagined. He believed that the world was chaos, and only he could bring order. His order required sacrifice, and he decided who lived and who died. Documents revealed his plan to wipe out entire communities systematically.
The scale of his ambition was astonishing and terrifying. Investigators followed the trail of death across Europe. Cities, villages, and towns all showed signs of his reign of terror. Victim stories were collected, painting a picture of horror. Many had no warning, no chance to escape. The world watched, often too late to stop him. In one town, investigators found signs of organized persecution and murder. The streets still held the scars of chaos and fear. Citizens remembered him not as a leader, but as a shadow that stole their lives. Hidden documents revealed meetings with top officials to plan mass murder. Every strategy was calculated, every step precisely timed. He used fear like a surgeon uses a scalpel, with precision and without remorse. Reports showed him personally inspecting camps, enjoying the control. The investigation uncovered evidence of secret accounts and stashed weapons. These clues led to the heart of his operation, the machinery of genocide. Historians later described it as a well-oiled machine of hatred. Victims' diaries were discovered, written in secret, speaking of terror. Their words revealed the daily horror of living under his rule. Some held on to hope, others succumbed to despair. Investigators pieced together the scale of his inhumanity. He targeted specific groups, calculated to create chaos and hatred. Even those who served him were afraid, knowing nothing would be forgotten. His logic was twisted, his rationality used to justify murder. Every law passed was a step toward an inescapable nightmare. The investigation revealed a system designed to silence, control, and destroy. Europe became a playground for his dark fantasies. Survivors told stories of fear, brutality, and loss beyond comprehension. Children witnessed death, learning hatred before they could speak. The elderly saw their communities destroyed, helpless to stop it. Historians studying his mind discovered an obsession with order and perfection. He believed some lives were worthless and some deserved domination. These beliefs were the engine behind his crimes. Investigators found his speeches lined with symbolism, pleading for loyalty. He mastered the art of turning people against each other. Secret groups were forming, training, and plotting under his command. Every move he made was a step in a grand design of control. Evidence of his planning included maps, lists, and detailed logs of victims. His organization was remarkably efficient, cold, and methodical. He stood above others, believing his vision was sacred and unchallengeable. Investigators discovered that he personally approved key decisions in camps. He watched, monitored, and ensured that nothing escaped his control. Secret cameras and reports showed him taking pleasure in order and obedience. His personality was a mix of charm, intelligence, and terrifying ruthlessness. He manipulated religion, politics, and culture to his advantage. Everyone in his path felt the crushing weight of his will. Even nations feared confrontation, knowing the cost of opposition. Hidden letters showed his obsession with power and control. He believed he could rewrite history through fear and violence. His supporters saw him as infallible, his opponents as targets. Every decision, no matter how cruel, was justified in his mind. He used logic, propaganda, and force to create an almost impossible world to escape. Investigators discovered how he turned friends into enemies and enemies into loose threads. Every move was part of a grand, terrifying design. He believed that only through extreme action could he achieve his vision, and this vision would leave Europe scarred for generations. The truth behind his mind remained dark, complex, and unforgiving.
The final truth about Hitler's mind began to emerge as historians pieced together evidence. He was driven not just by power, but by an obsession with order and superiority. Every decision was a calculated move in his personal game of dominance. He believed the world was chaos, and he was the only one capable of control. Investigators found that his childhood humiliations had left deep scars. Rejection, failure, and fear of insignificance became fuel for hatred. His ideology grew out of pain, frustration, and distorted logic. He surrounded himself with those who shared his vision or feared his wrath.
His followers became instruments of his plan, unknowingly enforcing horror. And yet, he believed his actions were necessary, even just. Survivors revealed stories that shocked the world, documenting death and fear. Each account showed how he used psychological terror to control masses. He exploited religion, nationalism, and greed to ensure loyalty. Secret orders and memos showed his increasingly ruthless methods. He struck fear into cities, villages, and individual lives with equal intensity. Investigators pieced together his systematic approach to genocide. His methods were chillingly logical, as if he were engineering life and death. Every plan, every move was executed with deadly precision. He left behind a trail of suffering that would take generations to heal. His name became synonymous with evil, fear, and manipulation. Hidden clues revealed that he often planned years ahead, thinking several steps beyond his enemies. His strategy incorporated not just military power, but psychological dominance. Documents showed he was obsessed with the idea of a pure nation. This obsession led to horrific decrees targeting minorities and the weak. He was methodical, cold, and without remorse, calculating the impact of every move. Even those close to him were often unable to understand his true motives. His charm masked the monster within, making him both charismatic and terrifying. The investigation uncovered meetings where mass murder was discussed like business. Each plan was documented, and each step executed without hesitation. He turned the world into a laboratory of control and fear. As his army grew, Europe felt his power in every corner. Cities fell, lives were destroyed, and hope was stripped away. The world watched in horror, often too late to intervene. Every step he took made the nightmare more inescapable. His victims spoke in whispers, their stories testifying to his cruelty. Historians later described his mind as both brilliant and terrifyingly ruthless. He was a master of propaganda, using media to twist reality. People believed in him, feared him, and obeyed him without question. His rule was a combination of intelligence, charisma, and monstrous ambition. Europe became his stage, and he directed a show of control and destruction. Hidden clues uncovered a deep obsession with symbolism, bloodlines, and legacy. He believed history would remember him, and he worked relentlessly to ensure it. Every speech, every law was designed to etch his vision into the world. His followers became carriers of his ideology, enforcing his rule without question. Even after his fall, the impact of his actions lingered for decades. The truth about his mind is dark, complex, and haunting. His obsession with control led to horrors that still resonate today. Investigators pieced together a man who believed he could rule humanity. His victims were countless, and his legacy a warning of human potential for evil. The world learned that charisma and intelligence can mask terrifying monstrosity. In the end, his story is one of obsession, pain, and fear manifested into reality. He showed how personal failure, bitterness, and obsession can turn into global tragedy. Every decision, every action was a piece of a dark puzzle the world struggled to understand. His name will forever be remembered, not just for what he did, but why he did it. Historians continue to study his mind, seeking to understand the depths of his darkness. The world must remember so it never repeats the horror of history. The lesson of his life is a warning about power, fear, and obsession. His impact changed history forever, leaving lessons in both triumph and tragedy. The investigation revealed the human cost of a man driven by fear and ambition, and so his story remains a testament to the danger of unchecked power. If you want to understand evil, look no further than Adolf Hitler's life. His actions show us the dark side of human nature, the ability to destroy without remorse. The truth is complex, layered, and often uncomfortable to face. Yet in learning his story, we learn to recognize warning signs in our own time. History records both his brilliance and his cruelty,
a duality that chills the soul. His story is a dark lesson in the power of fear and the consequences of hatred. The investigation uncovered how one man could impact millions. His life is a warning to future generations to question authority and think critically. Remembering his victims is as important as understanding him. And so we tell the story, so the world does not forget the lessons of history. If you found this documentary powerful, make sure to like and comment below. Share this story with others to spread awareness and education. Subscribe to our channel for more true crime stories that reveal dark secrets. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a new documentary. Comment your thoughts on how history shapes our world today. Tell us what part of Hitler's story chills you the most. Share this video with friends, family, and history enthusiasts. Join our community to discuss the lessons of history and human nature. We post regular content that explores dark history and true crime. Thank you for watching, and remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more revealing documentaries.